Burdekin River rises in the hills north of Charters Towers and enters the ocean between Home Hill and Ayr. In wet seasons, it can be a massive river, but this area of Queensland was in the grip of a terrible drought, and the river had shrunk into many big pools and small shallow runs. I was here with African-born Townsville-based angler Vinnie Versfeld. Vinnie loves to fly fish, so we'd get along just fine. The low water levels meant the riverbed was like a highway, and we could quickly cover many kilometres and get to the larger pools and shady runs we wanted to fish. We were looking for deeper water with current and structure in the form of logs and big submerged rocks, locations that held fish and would become targets for our flies. Casting to structure is what this fishing is all about, and our target species are those wonderful balls of muscle and character known as Sooty Grunters. These fish are one of the most willing of our native species and fill much the same niche that bass occupy in southern waters. The tactics and flies used on sooties are mostly the same as are used on bass. No weight at all. Oh, God, that was a big fish. Sounded like a barra-tape. No weight at all. It's a great fly. It's actually a bib popper. And if you want to know if there's a fish in a snag, it's absolutely fantastic. But the hookup rate is appalling with them. But I love throwing them in there because I know they're going to get hit. Everything absolutely loves these. But I'm not getting the hookups. Okay, time to get serious. This is an absolutely classic Sooty Grunter log jam. It's like be like an apartment block in there, just stacked up with fish. Currents coming down here, hitting this log jam, all the food's being brought to them, and they have all the cover in the world that they need. And I reckon some of the hits I've had out there, there are some really big sooties in there. Getting them out is going to be a different matter though. And I am going up to 16-pound tippet because they're living so close to cover. I reckon getting them out of there, if I do manage to hook one, is going to be a real battle. I'm going to 16-pound tippet and I'm pulling out the green tree frog. Good, just like that, is it? Just let the current sweep it in hard against the log. You like it, go right in there. Yes! Ah! Oh, what are you coming over here for?
That's a nice footing.
Not a bad one. I don't think he's the monster that hit the moment ago. You know, he's got that gurgler right down as well. They're really sucking it down. Come on, mate. Not a bad one.
Getting bigger.
One of the paler ones, yeah. I was really looking forward to a few more days of this sort of fishing, and I knew Vinnie was as well. It sure beats working, eh, Vinnie? A couple of young local lads, Josh and Cody Cooper, had come along to watch a bit of fly fishing, and with a river full of sooties right at their doorstep, who could blame them? Sooty Grunters inhabit almost all of the freshwater systems across the north of Australia, from the Fitzroy system right across to the Kimberley. They are a fantastic light tackle sport fish, are powerful dirty fighters that hit both surface and subsurface flies aggressively. Burdekin River above Lake Dalrymple has a huge population of sooties. The Cooper family live at the junction of the Burdekin and Fanning rivers, and with the guidance of Dad, Joe Cooper, the kids have grown up fishing.
We started off here with a few hand lines and a couple of packets of hooks, you know, and got the kids. The kids got the bug from that, you know what I mean. And now you can't keep them away from it, you know. And we've gone from $2 hand lines now, and as the kids have got keener, you know, that they work and save to buy better fishing gear, you know, because they love it, you know. Yeah.
Oh, well, we've just got hand reels with a running bull sinker and a hook, and we'll be using prawns. Just put it right down near the ledges and rocks and cracks in the rocks. Hopefully we'll get a few.
The boys have learned to think like a fish, you know. If there's a bit of shadows or a bit of a rock, or a lot of these rocks, there's a bit of dugout ledge underneath, and that's where the sleepy cod and the sooties will sit. Because the water's so clean and shallow, they need to hide.
But if you think you found a pretty good spot, have confidence in it and be patient. Yeah, sometimes they won't take the bait straight away. You gotta sit there for a while. They're pretty easy to catch. They'll take whatever goes in front of their face, really.
Sometimes just holding a bit of line in your hands and pulling it in by hand, it gives a lot more contact, and the kids get a lot of enjoyment out of it. To be honest, we very rarely fish with bait anymore, you know. They got the taste for soft plastics, and that's been awesome, you know. And it's very hard work for a father at the start because the kids are learning to cast, and you get a few in trees and you're constantly tying new leader on and stuff. But now it's awesome, you know. And then the fly fishing, you know, the boys have got the fly fishing bug. I don't know where that's going to end because they're always wanting to fly fish. But yeah, as a father, it makes me very proud actually, watching them, you know.
Right up, go. Nice. Cody in particular has been smitten by the fly bug and was an excellent student, taking in all the help I could offer and applying it enthusiastically. It's great to see fly fishing being taken up so far from traditional waters. But what's traditional these days anyway? Vinnie, what's access to this stretch of river like?
Access is pretty good considering the size of the river. There's a couple of public access points which are easy enough to find with Google Earth. To name a few, got the McCrossan Bridge where it comes over the river just before you go into Charters Towers. The Charters Towers Weir, there's good access point there. Even if you just want to bring the family down for a day, there's a playground and a park and stuff like that. You can go there and have a barbecue and whatever. So no, there's definitely access here. If you talk to a couple of the locals, you know, if you ask property owners nicely. Canoeing's an option when the river's obviously higher than what it is now. Same again, access, we do kayak trips from Charters Towers Weir down to Joe's place at Bivouac Junction. 2-day trip, beautiful, you don't even have to paddle, you know, if you've got a decent flow, you can just float down and catch fish all the way down.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And when the river's low like it is, we're driving up along the dry riverbed here.
Yep.
Do many people do that?
On the weekends you do get a few up on quads, motorbikes come up, and not a lot of them fish, which is kind of strange considering what you've got here. These things do come in their own, but if you feel a bit fit, it's not a hard walk. You can walk it and get to fishable water, you know, from the public access points for sure.
Yeah, and if you get too hot, you have a swim.
Yep.
Beautiful. No crocs in here?
No crocs, safe as ours. Is the only thing you probably have to worry about around here is snakes. In 6-7 years I've been fishing here, I've probably seen a handful of snakes, if that. Yeah, no, it's pretty safe.
Any other fish in the river outside the Sooty Grunters?
Well, we've got Sooty Grunter, we've got the Small Headed Grunter, which is endemic to this area, which makes it pretty special. The Burdekin Fish Stocking Society, they stock barra here. They're scarce as hen's teeth, but they do get caught, they definitely are in here. That's the main species to target in here. On top of that, you've got the likes of tilapia, unfortunately. There's millions of them in here, and then sleepy cod as well, which isn't a bad table fish if you're into eating freshwater fish. There's nothing wrong with putting them on the coals.
This is a tilapia. I could see a bunch of fish in that little run-in in the river there. These are an introduced absolute pest species, and the law in Queensland is that you have to kill them and throw them up the bank. So I'm going to dispatch this. Quite a pretty fish. Originally an aquarium fish, and probably how they got released in this country. But I'm actually sight fishing to them, which is not a bad thing. I can see a bunch of them hanging in that little bit of inflow there. I'd left the snow and cold of the Blue Mountains a few days earlier and was now wading knee-deep in warm water under blue skies. This was unexpected and very special fishing for midwinter. Let it sink, let it sink. A little bit of patience. Don't know how deep it is out there, but I want this down the bottom. Sun's getting high. It's unlikely that they're going to come up to it. So I've got to get down to them. Yep, there he is. Ah, little one. No. It suddenly got bigger. Came with me. Yeah, there was another. And as it sank, the line just came up tight. Really, the fish kept swimming with me. Oh, these are great fish, Vinnie. I mean, the average size is fantastic.
You've got to love it how hard they hit a fly, eh? Oh, it's so aggressive.
They really do hit it, don't they? There's not a lot of sucking and pecking and nibbling. It's smack.
Because they always hang around in little schools, so the competition for food's so much higher.
Yeah. So muscular, so fat and chunky. That's what I love about them. Look how thick they are through the body. You know? You pick up a sooty grunter and it just feels like a rock, like just a ball of muscle. Really solid, and you press their flesh a little bit and nothing gives. Like rocks. All right, mate, off you go.
Something like that, a little bit of olive in it.
Okay, that's a nice fly. Yeah, pretty simple. They don't seem to be all that fussy.
No.
Yeah. Which is good for someone coming up here, because it doesn't mean you've got to go to great lengths and get boxes and boxes of specialist flies. Or I think you could come here with a bunch of reasonable trout streamers.
Yes.
And slay them.
Yep.
Particularly if they had bead heads on them.
Yeah, no,
you know, to get a little bit of depth on them.
Yeah, or anything like, you know, hair and coppers, woolly buggers.
Right,
A woolly bugger, you know, there's few fish out there that won't eat something simple like that.
No, that's dead right.
There's a prime example of the bait that they'll be feeding on. There's a whole big school of hardy heads.
Yeah. Unbelievably pleasant weather. I can imagine, you know, in a southern winter, a trout fisherman looking for a little bit of fly fishing to do. I mean, you're fishing in a river.
Yep.
There are sight fishing opportunities,
yep.
But there are just so many fish, and you just bring your trout gear. It's fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful conditions.
Yep, no, it's absolutely great.
The mornings probably get a little bit crisp.
Yep.
But look at this blue sky. It's just gorgeous.
The upside about it is even on those crisp mornings, the temperature doesn't really seem to affect the sooties.
Right, okay.
They feed year-round, whether the water's hot or cold, they just be chilling.
Bivouac Junction camping grounds are not far upstream from the main Townsville Highway bridge crossing the Burdekin River. Joe's family own the grounds, and the kids have grown up in this great environment. Vinnie had brought along his fly tying kit, and during a break from fishing, when I sat down to knock up a few more flies, the Bivouac boys appeared as if by magic. I suspect that for these river kids, who love fishing so much and who were taking their first steps down the fly fishing road, a fly tying lesson was better than any lesson they might get at school. I had to tie them each a fly before I could get on to restocking my own fly box. They were deeply absorbed by the process of making flies, and we talked about what sort of tying materials they might be able to get locally. Chicken and peacock feathers, feral cat skins and rabbit skins were high on the list of very useful materials that were at hand. They pounced onto each finished fly quicker than any sooty grunter. sooty flies are pretty simple. I'll run another fly through here. Right in. The tighter you get to the snags, the bigger the fish. You pick out of the edges, you'll get the little guys. Sooties will retreat much further back into the snag. You've got to get your fly further back in there and sink it deeper. Right into it. Let it sink, let it sink. See if we can get another big one out of there. It's way down deep. There he is, there he is.
Well, we get them up to 50s, or
Yeah.
45, 48s.
What's that one? It's got to be 40.
Yeah, could be well over 34.
Yeah. You can just comfort lift them, like so, hold them up. Some pretty nasty little spikes on them. There we go, that came out of that big snag there. Vinnie spotted that snag and said, yep, that's the place. I'll put it back. I'm using a 6, oh, there was a bump. I'm using a 6-weight rod here. There's a fish, there he is. 6-weight is probably the maximum size rod you want for in here. In my view, I mean, I think it's perfectly feasible to fish for these with light trout gear. They are a fairly dirty fighting fish. They will try and get you back into cover. So you've got to be ready to pull them out of there. And so this is a stiff 6-weight. I've loaded it up with a 7-weight Rio smallmouth bass line. Perfect line for this sort of fishing. Carries its fair bit of mass forward. Will turn over bigger flies if you want them. I'm only using a fairly small fly at the moment. But this rod, even though it's got quite heavy eyes on it, this rod will actually turn it over easily. It's a Sage method, which is their top of the line rod, and it's a fairly fast rod, and by putting a 7-weight line on it, I've actually slowed it down, and that 7-weight line will carry the larger flies very easily. I'm just using a floating line. Flies with a fair bit of weight in it to get down deep if I need to sink them down around boulders and into snags. And a fairly long leader. My leader is around 10 feet long with a fluorocarbon tippet. Rio fluorocarbon tippet, and that allows me, there's a lot of abrasion resistance in that. It's a 10-pound tippet. Don't want to fish too light for these things. I'd love a barra to jump onto the fly. That's quite possible in this river. In that case, I'll be in serious trouble because I'm just fishing just a tapered leader. I make the base leader out of Maxima, so it would be 30, 20, 15 in Maxima, and then a tippet of 10-pound fluorocarbon. Very simple setup, but the beauty of that setup is that it's very accurate. I can turn this fly over straight into the snag. It's not going to kick around, and accuracy when you're snag fishing is very important. The further back in there you can get it, the more fish you're going to pull out of there. The range of the Sooty Grunter is right across the north of Australia, but there are also many closely related species but also share the same water with sooties. In the Burdekin, there is one species that is endemic to this system, Small Headed Grunter, and I had not encountered these before. Vinnie pulled a ripper from out of one of the deeper holes.
This is the Small Headed Grunter, the one that we spoke about earlier, the ones that are endemic in this area, only found in this river system.
Okay.
Very similar to the silver perch, I'd say, or
Yeah.
saltwater wise, maybe lyric. Yeah,
That's a fat one too.
the locals call them pot bellies. You can see there.
Pot bellies, okay.
Yep.
Or spotty grunters.
Yeah. Yep.
The black marking, are they always different? Or?
Yep, always different, similar to golden trevally and the likes like that. Wouldn't know why they've got them, you know, like on this side it's got a nice sort of eye spot on the tail. You can see that side there, completely different to the other side.
Yep, nice. Wow, I'd love to catch one of those.
They go hard.
Do they? They go harder than the sooties?
Pound for pound, I'd say they normally find them sitting in the faster water too,
Okay.
in the deeper runs, in
Okay.
behind the rocks and stuff. But yeah, no, very, very special fish.
You like those, eh?
How cool is that? I'll go out there and
So what sort of water do you find those in?
in the faster run, with the river being this low, I'll go and hold up in the deeper pools.
Okay.
Yeah.
The prospect of catching a new species was an added incentive to fish just a little bit harder and smarter. We moved up the river and worked over all the bigger holes, catching fish almost constantly. Any fly landing close to cover was pounced on. These fish hit a fly so hard. You would have thought the fish were starving, they were so hungry, but it's just their very aggressive and territorial nature. They were also in fantastic condition. Great fishing, Vinnie.
Yeah, no,
All right, going back. Go on.
hey, right.
There was a bunch of them in there,
Yep.
following their mates out.
Pretty sure we'll get another couple off that rock.
Yeah. At the end of the day, Joe and the boys turned up with their spin rods, but Cody, the keenest fly fisher of the family, had his fly rod with him and was determined to fly fish in spite of the windy conditions. We fished on, searching for that elusive small-headed grunter, but all we caught was sooties. Not a bad thing at all. What a beautiful fish. Downstream of us, Cody got to feel what it was like to catch a fish on a fly rod. And although only a tilapia, he was stoked. These barefooted bush kids can really fish and have caught many fish in their short lives. But the slightly different process of landing fish on a long fly rod was not so easily managed. We hadn't covered how to do this yet, but he worked it out. There's always something new to learn in fly fishing and always something new to encounter. So you like fly fishing, Cody?
Yeah.
What do you like about it?
Well, I'd always thought it would have been a bit funner than like casting a lure.
And how many fish have you caught now?
2.
2! This is your second one. So what was your first one?
It was a little sooty.
A little Sooty Grunter, yeah. And what's this one now?
Tilapia.
It looks like a tilapia, yeah. But you don't mind catching them, do you?
At least it's a fish.
At least it's a fish, exactly. And how's the casting coming on?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, you're looking pretty good, I must say.
Why do you reckon your casting was a bit better today, Cody?
Because Peter gave me a couple lessons yesterday and he showed me a couple different tricks.
You just picked it up so quickly, it's amazing. I think there's a gene in there somewhere, something that clicks, and some people just want to go fly fishing. That's all they want to do. And I reckon you might be one of them, mate. That's him. You sure? Yep, that's a small one. At last, for me, a small-headed grunter. This is a new species of fish for me. It's one that's endemic to the Burdekin River system. The locals call it a pot-bellied grunter, also known as a small headed grunter. Perhaps related to the silver perch, I don't know. There are quite a few different grunter species, but this one is just native to this river, and it's a wonderful thing to catch one. You can see why it's called a pot-bellied grunter. Look at this big fat pot belly on it. Okay. Much smaller dorsal than the Sooty Grunter too, I notice. There we go. These seem to inhabit the deeper stretches of the pools and hang around in quite large schools. Fairly similar water to the sooties, but the sooties do often get up into the shallows, whereas these seem to stay in the much deeper stretches. So I'm using a bass vampire, a bloody vampire here, and that got deep. It's got a fair bit of weight on it. Pulled it through the pool. I had a couple of hits, and then bingo, a new species for me. Wonderful. Off you go.
Check out our great range of fishing gear and DVDs on fishingdownunder.tv.